BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. And yes, it's good to be back in West Virginia to anybody who is listening to these things daily. I was up in Boston, in the Boston, Massachusetts area for a while, but now back here, and hopefully these things will be coming out much as they did before, trying to do one upload daily. So if you haven't subscribed yet to Black Box Online Radio, feel free to do so. And today we're going to be discussing a topic that I had wanted to mention for a while, and I wanted to discuss the subject for a while, talking about the death of Dennis Wilson, who is, of course, most famous for being the drummer of the Beach Boys, but as well as just an overall musician, because Dennis also contributed in a variety of ways, particularly with vocals. And even though he is perhaps more famous for being the drummer of the Beach Boys, he put out an album called Pacific Ocean Blue, which you can see here in the picture. And I was listening to some of that recently. I got on this Dennis Wilson subject for a couple reasons. The first was we talk a lot about the Manson family, and in the description box here, I'll include some of the things that we have done on the Manson family and possible Zodiac killer connections. The best way you can support this channel is just by listening to some more of our content. That link will be available in the description box here. But to talk about Dennis Wilson, it's like he is inseparable from Charles Manson. If you even Google Dennis Wilson right now, you'll find things about the Beach Boys and you'll find things about his connections to Charles Manson. But one of the things that I did today was I went through the documentary Dennis Wilson, The Real Beach Boy. I had wanted to see this for a couple of months now since I saw that it was available on YouTube, and you can see it too on YouTube for free, Dennis Wilson, The Real Beach Boy. And he's called The Real Beach Boy because I found it rather surprising after going through some of the things on the Manson family that Dennis Wilson was the only member of the Beach Boys, who was a surfer. And it's like, they had so many songs about surfing, and overall is a pretty good documentary. We don't do traditional documentary or film reviews, and if we did, though, there's some big things that I would call them out on. However, really more just to talk about the life of Dennis Wilson. You can see that he was someone who was very passionate about music, but also about the camaraderie of the Beach Boys. And this is one of the things that you could really see in The Real Beach Boy, that people were so emotional after the death of Dennis Wilson. Like, you can just see some of the things that people were saying when they're like, he brought the cool to the group. Because, not first and foremost, as we said, he was the only surfer, but also one of his Corvettes was used on the album cover for one of the Beach Boys albums. It's like he had the type of beach party persona that was actually coming to life through their music. A lot of that came from Dennis Wilson, and he really contributed not only music, as we said, but also in terms of personality amongst the group, inspiring people as being one of the Beach Boys themselves. But to help us out, we're going to jump over to an article that is from Business Insider, of all things. And there's another excellent article that is out there from biography.com. If you ever follow up on any of the sources after listening to this upload on the death of Dennis Wilson, the article from biography.com was excellent. But this one from businessinsider.com talks about Charles Manson and his family cult formed a strange and brief relationship with drummer Dennis Wilson during the summer of 1968. In the summer of 1968, a year before Charles Manson orchestrated 7 brutal murders, he insinuated himself into a strange relationship with an unlikely source, the Beach Boys. First and foremost, we can say 7 murders. There are actually some additional victims, but we don't have to go down that pathway. But there are more than 7 murders. And this article was written shortly after the passing of Charles Manson when he died in 2017. Dennis Wilson picked up and drove home 2 female hitchhikers who happened to be living in Manson's cult known as the Family. And as I understand how this story went out, you're going to hear a few different variations of how Dennis Wilson became associated with the Manson family. Yes, indeed, he was driving down the road and he saw 2 female hitchhikers. And in the biography.com article, they were talking about how he asked them to get in his car and said he would drive them back to his house and he would offer them milk and cookies. But what that article from biography.com left out is they actually had 3-way sex, and that, like Charles Manson was a very strong source of both drugs. He supplied Dennis Wilson with drugs as well as the women, because Dennis Wilson was somebody who really lived the rock star lifestyle. And what they were saying in the documentary, The Real Beach Boy, is that if you were on Dennis Wilson's hotel floor, if you're on the same floor with him when they were staying, the girls would line up. And I don't know if this is true, but they said 15 women would be standing outside of the door, and they're waiting just to talk to him, just to see him, just to be in the presence of this charismatic rock star. And I don't necessarily know if that's exactly, if all of that is 100% accurate, or if there's a little bit of exaggeration or not. But you can kind of get the idea that he already had an enormous connection to women, and he had the availability of many different women. But it is quite surprising. It is not quite surprising that he would still want to keep on the party scene, keep up with it and all. Diane Lake, a member of the family who wasn't involved in any of the murders, described in a recent memoir how Manson's ability to captivate Dennis Wilson, a famous musician, went on to validate more and more Charles Manson's status as the leader of the cult. And Charles Manson, as I understand, would go on to use Dennis Wilson as a way to break into the music industry, which many people claim that that's just the biggest ambition in the world to Charles Manson. And more or less, Charles Manson has kind of said that music was his god, and he thought about that very, very clearly. And Dennis Wilson became the pathway that he was going to use to break into the musical industry. However, there are some people out there, as we said, we didn't upload on the Zodiac Manson connections. There are people out there who are like, none of that's true. This was all a CIA plot. There are conspiracy theories that are going on. And the fact of the matter is we do not know 100% everything that happened with Charles Manson. But to talk about the relationship with Dennis Wilson, you can see that there really is this connection to the music industry. As the Washington Post notes, days after their first meeting, Manson and the family moved into Wilson's home, where they dropped acid and participated in group sex before gonorrhea began to spread through the collective. Ugh. According to Diane Lake, Wilson provided for the group and even drove them all to see a doctor after the gonorrhea hit. Oh, that's nice. The Manson-Wilson relationship came to an abrupt end in the summer of 1968, and that came to a close. And even in the movie Helter Skelter, which came out in 2004, they did a variant of the scene. Once again, you really got to know which story you're going to be listening to. But they have this one scene where Charles Manson comes to Dennis Wilson, and he brings him a bullet, and he's like, what's this supposed to mean? What's this supposed to mean? Just get away from me. Never talk to me again. But some of the people who were very close to Dennis Wilson were talking about this in some of the other sources, as we mentioned, biography.com, and they were saying that Dennis Wilson could never shake his connection to Charles Manson, because what happens in 1969, the Tate LaBianca murders, as well as the murder of Gary Hinman, the murder of Shorty Shea. So it's like, as well as possible, other incidents that Charles Manson was involved with that are even less famous. So it's like he could never shake this connection to Charles Manson. And it's even possible that this was one of the contributing factors that led to the death of Dennis Wilson, who would die abruptly from drinking in the early 1980s, drinking near a water source, which led to his drowning. We need to be very precise about that. But when I say this, it's not really my own observation. It's one of the things that I have noticed that people were saying, because they really believe that Dennis Wilson had so many issues going on, let alone people in the Beach Boys are his family. And one of the things I mentioned that I didn't really like from the documentary, The Real Beach Boy, was they just have this one very abrupt line in the documentary where they say, Brian Wilson lost his mind. Brian Wilson, of course, Dennis Wilson's family member, Dennis Wilson's brother. And they just say it that way. And then somebody even wrote in the comments section, he didn't lose his mind. He had a nervous breakdown, but he did regain from that and went on to, of course, keep composing and performing, and he continued on with his musical career later in life. But the big thing to say, though, is just that Dennis Wilson had an enormous amount of pressures, and he also went into financial trouble. He purchased a boat that was very important to him, Harmony, and it was very expensive, but he still just was absolutely in love with it. And he, of course, was very intoxicated once by a marina, and then would go into the water to try and retrieve items that had previously gone overboard, and eventually that ultimately led to his death. You know, we see this time and time again throughout different stories. When people are intoxicated near a water source, or even beyond intoxication, when people are disoriented near bodies of water, the risk of drowning is so much higher. It's like, we've even seen this from very simple cases such as, or like even in other instances, the death of Elisa Lam, for example, somebody who was found dead in a water tank on top of a hotel. It doesn't have to be a river. It doesn't have to be a pond. It doesn't have to be a marina. And what was his name? Richard the Lionheart, for example. He died in 6 inches of water. It doesn't. You don't necessarily need to have even a very large body of water. But Dennis Wilson was in a marina with all the boats, and he's going into the water voluntarily. Now, one of the things that was insinuated in this documentary, The Real Beach Boy, is that it's possible that Dennis Wilson perhaps had given up. They did not say the word suicide in regards to the death of Dennis Wilson. As we said, he died from drowning, and the official cause of death has been listed as drowning. But I thought it was very remarkable when they made the comment that he was found in the fetal position underwater, like when the divers went down and they found him. They really said that he died in a very tranquil way. Because when you can think about perhaps movies where people are going through the scenes in which they are drowning, it's very rough. They're just fighting for their life. And as we mentioned in Elisa Lam, in the death of Elisa Lam, she was very viciously stripping off her clothes because of hypothermia kicking in. And a lot of people really associate the concept of drowning with a very violent and very rough passing. But what they said about Dennis Wilson was he was found in the fetal position, and it actually seemed like he had given up to a certain extent. However, intoxication did seem to play a role. When it would come to dealing with the battle with alcoholism, one of the ways that this was described is that Dennis Wilson had two major drinks that he would go for, rum and orange juice and grapefruit juice and vodka. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I can definitely comprehend this state of mind. I've been in this position before when they would say that Dennis Wilson would pour out some of the juice and then he would just pour the juice right on the street and then start filling up the bottle with alcohol, and then he would drink it all day, just like casually sipping the alcoholic beverage all day. I went through my own bout with alcoholism, and it was exactly like that. And I think that's very common, where it just becomes, you just go through the days going for the bottle in that way, or it has to be continuous. It's not as if some people are dealing with the situation by just having a drink here and there, or some people just chug it down and then they're good for like 2 or 3 hours. Some people, I happen to be one of them as well, sadly, would just want the bottle by them all day long and then they just casually sip. It had to be in that type of continuous fashion. And I think a lot of people go through this because other people that I've talked to have had similar experiences, even though they weren't dealing with with alcoholism. It was much more about how they simply wanted to just have that type of continuous intake. And it's very, very tragic, but it really just goes to show you that the rock star image and persona that gets glorified and shared to many different places is one that is very, very, well, it has the big possibility for chaos, I would say, and it can go down a pathway of success, and then all of these good things happen. And even people like Charles Manson can tell you that. But what it shows is that it can be very short-lived, or that there can be a lot of unintended consequences. And one of the things they say about Charles Manson is that he was somebody who really desired to be a rock star, not only for the music. No, absolutely not. Manson also had this desire to become a rock star because of the persona that was created by bands like the Beach Boys, but more specifically, the Beatles. And it was that type of lifestyle where it's like you're the central figure, you have the entourage around you. And one of the names that Charles Manson that had been given to him by Dennis Wilson was the Wizard. And when he would bring Manson in to meet other people, they would also just be very impressed with his ability to improvise music. And this is something that I learned from the Stones Unturned. What they would say about Charles Manson is that he would learn about you in 30 seconds. They show how this is done in the film Helter Skelter from 2004, mind you, when they just show he would learn an enormous amount of information about you, which we can only gather is that he is reading into a person's personality traits, and he would have learned how to do these things in prison. And then he could improvise a song. He could freestyle a song while he's playing the guitar, and he's telling you somebody all of this information about themselves, and then he's talking about how they feel like he's talking to them, and they feel very connected to him. But in reality, he is just a quick-thinking improvisational musician, the same way that a rapper can freestyle. But what they said in the biography.com article was after the summer of 1968, Dennis Wilson was done with the Wizard, and he wanted to get rid of this guru persona that Charles Manson had created, and he just wanted to be done with it because they were taking his money, they were destroying his property. Oh, what did they say in the Stephanie Harlow series on Charles Manson? That they wrecked two Mercedes and a Ferrari or something. I think those were Dennis Wilson's, but I would like to jump over to the article from Groovy History. This was the first article that I ever read from Groovy History that talks about Dennis Wilson and Charles Manson. In the late 1960s, it was probably not a good idea to hang around with Charles Manson. Dennis Wilson didn't know that, but nobody did, at least. Not the way that we know today. Dennis Wilson, the brother of Brian Wilson, was a co-founder of the Beach Boys. Charles Manson, on the other hand, is perhaps the most famous and certainly most infamous cult leader in American history. On his orders, the Manson family committed the Tate LaBianca murders in 1969. As we said, there are also some other victims. We're all aware of this today, but back in the spring of 1969, when Dennis Wilson let the Manson family into his life and into his home, the group's darkest deeds were still a year off. While living with Dennis Wilson, Charles Manson and his swarm of STD-infested scavengers, hey, Susan Atkins, relentlessly took advantage of Wilson's kindness. They destroyed his home, destroyed his cars. Those are the Mercedes and the Ferrari that we were talking about. Or was it a Rolls Royce? Maybe it was a Rolls Royce, actually, come to think of it, going off of memory on that one. I invite you to listen to our four-part mini-series discussing Stephanie Harlow and her claims on Charles Manson. And the Manson family moved to the Spahn Ranch after leaving Dennis Wilson's house after their falling out in the summer of 1968. Dennis Wilson may never have met Charles Manson if he hadn't been so prone to picking up hitchhikers, especially young female hitchhikers, and one day he picked up Patricia Krenwinkel and Ella Jo Bailey. Now, there really is so much more to the life of Dennis Wilson. I mean, not only was he the drummer, but he really participated in a lot of vocals, and you can hear this when they're playing the audio clips of him side by side. His voice is deteriorating by the end of his life, and it really was quite saddening. There's some scenes in this documentary, The Real Beach Boy, when he's talking to the audience, and he just sounds so rough and so harsh, and they were saying in the studio he couldn't perform the vocals that were written 100%, and I mean, a lot of musicians deal with this, and that's kind of the explanation, that they cannot always perform exactly the same way they're done, even when we've done a few other uploads on the deaths of certain individuals. But what they were really just trying to show is that his life was deteriorating, and a lot of the things, though, that Dennis Wilson had in life were the result of the bad boy image, but this was done in a very amplified fashion, and the party going, and he was even known as Dennis the Menace when he was a kid. But yes, indeed, Dennis Wilson would go on to pass away December 28th, 1983 in Marina del Rey, California. And the issue that, as we said, this is not only the story of how somebody died. This is the story of a musician who brought a lot of heart and soul to the Beach Boys, and his life took a lot of twists and turns. And the other thing that I really wanted to say about the rock star lifestyle is what is rarely talked about until you get to the autobiographies, or if anyone still watches VH1. Is VH1 still a network? I'm not sure. When they would do these behind the music specials, and it's all just like financial trouble, and like people's lives, they go up really fast. They have these meteoric rises to stardom, and then they come down crashing hard. And the New York Times just has one little blurb on the death of Dennis Wilson that was written in December of 1983. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Mr. Dennis Wilson, who was 39 years old, was found in about 12 feet of water at the Marina del Rey Harbor at about 5:45 p.m. Sheriff's deputies said that he had spent much of the afternoon on a yacht, the Emerald, that berthed at the marina. And there you have it. And the divers, of course, rescued his body, and they said he was found in the fetal position, meaning that it really didn't appear that he was fighting too much. It was more that he knew that he was no longer going to be able to come up for air, so he began to curl up into the fetal position, and he accepted that he was going to die. So I think the biggest lesson from this one is just that there are many different sides to fame. There are many different pressures that come with fame. And Dennis Wilson had multiple marriages. He went through multiple divorces. And they say that was another major impact on his life. Financial trouble, the inability to perform music at the same way like that he did when he was younger, but about how Dennis Wilson would learn to play the drums. I thought it was just so fascinating to say that he just accepted the role of being the drummer in the group, and he even developed his own way to hit the hi-hat and the snare, and he was just like a member of the group from the beginning. And as once again, with the rock star lifestyle, it really appears that there are just a lot of antics that happen and a lot of misfortunes that happen that lead to instability, if you will. It just seems that there's so many highs and so many lows, no matter which musician we're talking about. But Dennis Wilson could never shake the Manson family connection, and I think there is a certain case to be made for that. But if you do want to hear some of the songs from Pacific Ocean Blue, his solo album is available here on YouTube. I mean, it's like you can hear many songs that have been uploaded from it here on YouTube for free, as well as watching the documentary Dennis Wilson, The Real Beach Boy. And feel free to check out our upload in the description box on Charles Manson and the Zodiac Killer connection. All right, well, that's all for me now. If you like this upload, you can hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you're welcome to do so. But most importantly, everybody stay safe, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Until next time.